said, it's like, don't blame me. I didn't write it or whatever if it sucks.
Bobby, it's crazy. We can go ahead and speculate and get real damn close to the truth when it comes to the ship for Spider-Man, but it is a damn fucking mystery as to like what really went down with the creation of Batman and the earliest fucking villains. Because
wait a minute, Zach. It's the polar opposite of what you just said. It is confusing as fuck with Spider-Man. It's crystal clear what happened with Batman. I mean,
not
there's
really.
a guy.
I saw that.
Not really, because we all know Bill Diamond fucking created Batman, and Bob Kane just
Bill Finger. Like Bill Diamond's the guy. Bill Diamond's the guy we got drunk with at Garden State.
Bill Finger, yes, but the thing is that like some of the earliest villains and whatnot, because then you have I forget something Robinson or
Jerry Robinson created the Joker.
Yeah, but like
Bill Finger.
There's always back and forth between Bill Finger, Bob Kane, and Jerry
but Bob
Robinson
Kane didn't.
when it comes to a lot of that stuff. And there's a lot of back and forth, but
Zach,
a lot of it really is just like speculation.
Bob Kane is the biggest piece of shit, not just in comics, but possibly ever to walk the face of the earth. He's a scumbag. He's a no good, two-timing, lying, rat bastard, psychopath, piece of shit.
Is he a commie?
I hope he's a commie. I hope he's burning I hope his flesh is burning in hell right now. He's a piece of actual human shit. Okay, he stole. Let me tell you about Bob. Let me go on my fucking Bob Kane rant. Okay, this guy is the biggest. Because when I was a kid, and I'm like, I got old enough to understand, how comics work and they're created and blah blah blah. Who's this? Who created Batman? This hero that actually means so much to me in a real way, right? Because people say that like, I like a character, whatever. Batman meant something to me, and he still fucking means something to me. He's somebody to look up to. He's a good person. He's the model for how human beings can live a really like a life that's not a life that's not defined by tragedy. You too can make something in your life that's special, even if it gets off to a horrible start. That's what Batman means to me. And when I went to go look up who was created, who was responsible for this great thing, I was really like truly shattered when I found out that the guy who really created it was this guy who created the entire thing with the help of no one. He acted alone, much like Lee Harvey Oswald. This man acted alone. Okay,
that's true.
And I was just saying a term of phrase. I don't really believe that, but this man actually acted alone, right? So he created everything, and what did he get for it? Bill Finger died penniless in Nebraska somewhere. He couldn't rub two fucking pennies together. That's how poor he was, right? The man who created Batman, his rogues gallery, the costume, the backstory, all that shit, right? And what does he get? Dies penniless in Nebraska. And you know what Bill Finger liked to do? The one thing that he liked to do? He liked to tell his drinking buddies, hey, you know what? You know who really was responsible for Batman? You know who really came up with all this shit? He'd say, come on, I'll tell you a story. It wasn't this guy. It wasn't this Bob Kane guy. It was me. Well, Bob Kane got word of that. And this guy who got all the credit, all the money, he was, doing his wife was doing cameos in Batman 89, all that shit. It wasn't good enough for him. He couldn't let him have telling his drinking buddies that he created Batman. That was too much for Bob Kane, this fucking communist piece of shit, right? That was too much for him.
Right?
So he took out a full-page ad in like the Kyra McBuyer's guide saying Bill Finger is such a liar. He never created Batman. If he did, he'd have the rights to them. Which is like saying, after you steal somebody's car, how could that guy say that this is his car? He doesn't have it. Like, after you stole it from him. It's the same thing. So let me tell you the real skinny of it. Fucking Bob Kane is a slimy, no good rat bastard who basically, when Siegel and Schuster were going to sue DC, right, for the rights to Superman, this no good conniving fuck of a human being decided to rat out his friends, Siegel and Schuster, to DC that they're going to sue DC to get to try to get Superman back. So he ratted out his friends to DC, the ultimate scab, right? He ratted them out, and DC rewarded, and DC ended up crushing Siegel and Schuster in court. They got the rights. It's still a mess to this day. Yeah, and they reward Bob Kane. They reward Bob Kane. This was only a couple of years after Batman, by the way. But they reward Batman. They reward Bob Kane with a contract that says, for now and for eternity, it will always be sole credit for Batman. right? No matter what. Okay, that's why until Batman v Superman, that's why until Batman v Superman, he was the sole credit for Batman, which was bullshit because he actually did zero. He did nothing. At most, he created the name Batman, and even that's up for debate because actually Steranko reminded me
God bless him. God bless Steranko.
Who also, mind you, who also slapped the fucking commie taste out of Bob Kane's mouth, right? Mind you,
There's no evidence that Bob Kane is actually communist right here.
You ever see the silent film that
The Bat
was one of
1926.
I love you. Yep.
So listen.
You know the man who laughs, of course. You know that the man who laughs.
Of course.
I haven't
So
seen
here's
either
the
of
thing.
them, but I need to.
So Bob Kane in 1937 or 38, I think 38, right after Superman came out to success, right? He got in good with DC and they wanted to create a character, right? He comes up with Batman, right? Which already was a thing. There was actually the Bat was a thing. He just added man to the end of it, right? So he comes out and he comes up with his idea for Batman. And it's this fucking nerd in a red spandex costume.
Yeah, the original costume.
It's dog shit. It's dog shit. He's got orange hair. It looks fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So basically, John's saying I've heard white noise for 3 minutes. Well, John, how about you go jerk off for 5 more minutes? Because I'm not done telling my story here. Okay.
This is it, right?
Yes. So basically, actually, that's not true, Travko. This drawing that you're going to see over here to the right, which is where Bob Kane alleges that he got his inspiration from the flying machine that Da Vinci drew. They're actually backdated. They found out in court. Like, there's a whole blog that documented all this shit. It's on the Wayback Machine. It was Dial B for blog. He backdated this shit to try and make evidence up that he actually created Batman from the flying machine or whatever.
I'm trying to find this Travko comment. No, this Travko comment.
The second to last one.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's actually backdated. He didn't draw that the date he drew that at. He drew it many years later, actually in like the 80s. And he wrote the date like it was before. He backdated it. So Bob Kane came up with this horrendous design, and he takes it to his buddy Bill Finger. And from there, Bill Finger, everything you know and love about Batman came from Bill Finger. The backstory, the cowl, his parents being murdered, right? The eventually not using the gun, right? The Batmobile all came from Bill Finger. The only thing he didn't create was the Batcave, which, believe it or not, came from that piece of shit cereal, the second one. That's actually where the Batcave comes from.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, so everything you know and love about this character comes from this guy. And I'm pretty sure there's other stuff, too, that I'm forgetting. I think maybe Commissioner Gordon, too. It's all him. And he died penniless because this fucking rat fuck, Bob Kane. And it just...
How old was he when he died, the Finger guy? How old was he?
I don't know, he was like 60-something, maybe even 50-something. He wasn't that old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it always bothered me because Batman has always meant so much to me, and this whole horrible
59.
story.
He was 59. That's fucking awful, dude. That he died
it just always bothered me that this aspirational character that I hold so highly always had this dark, sad story behind it. It always rubbed me the wrong way. So whenever people give credit to Bob Kane, I always get a little pissed off. Honestly, that's the closest I'll get to triggered. Is when people are like, Bob Kane actually was in the room. He actually had something to do with Batman. No, he didn't have Jack Dick to do with anything. He's a fucking commie that's burning in hell right now.
What triggers you more, that or saying that Ang Lee's Hulk sucks?
Well, listen, I think you're just stupid if you think Ang Lee's Hulk sucks. If you think Bob Kane wasn't that bad of a guy, well, then that means you're also a piece of shit and stupid.
I mean, you cannot also forget that what helped the popularity of Batman to get big just as much as Superman was the mafia that was help pushing it on the newspaper.
It's true.
For more product.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Of course.
Yeah, the mafia was involved with comics.
So basically, the mafia like I don't. The mafia had ties with the owners who were running the companies, and they were trying to. They needed to use the trucks that they were using to deliver the product, and the owner of the companies were like, "Hey, we're losing sales on these characters. Can you help us out? If we're gonna let you use the trucks, you gotta, give something." So they were like, all right. So every time when they were taking the trucks, every time they were going to the newspaper stands, wherever in New York City, New Jersey, they would, muscle in on the stands and be like, hey, you need to order them Batmans and Supermans. And while you're at it, throw a little Wonder Woman at you.
It's kind of funny, actually.
And, yeah, dude. And
dude, we should make a movie. I gotta make a movie about this, dude, where it's just like, it's just the mob in comics.
There are some documentaries on it.
No, yeah, I want like a narrative film where it's like
with Steranko starring as Steranko's the head mobster. He slaps. That's all he does. He doesn't shoot anyone. He just slaps the shit out of them.
By the way, absurd. This guy Bob Kane, who sold the credit for Batman, so a legendary comic artist, all around goated human being. Jim Steranko slapped the shit out of him, right, in an elevator or something.
So. Real quick, because I don't want to keep annoying people with my rants, but
I think everyone likes it in the chat. Actually,
yeah, I like it. I'm enjoying it. Keep going.
Bobby, that's gonna be a clip. That's gonna be a video clip that I'm uploading. By the way, your Bob Kane rant.
All right, so
we go.
Go ahead, Bobby.
With Jim Steranko, who's actually a good person. What happened was he begrudgingly gets introduced to Bob Kane. Somebody was like, "Here, come on, meet Bob Kane." He's like, "I'd rather not," but the guy insisted, so he ends up meeting Bob Kane. Steranko had this is like in the early '70s, so Steranko had just put out his History of Comics, Steranko History of Comics, Volume 1 and 2, and he gave a shitload of credit to Bill Finger and Jay Robinson, who he knew personally, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he knew them personally, and it kind of really rubbed them the wrong way how like taken advantage of they were by Bob Kane. So he really didn't like Bob Kane. So then he meets Bob Kane, they shook hands, and then basically Bob Kane had to leave the convention shortly. So they're walking the elevator while they're talking, and the essence of the conversation was Bob Kane complaining that you didn't give me enough credit. Boo-hoo. Woe is me. So when he gets in the elevator, Bob Kane, he's like facing Steranko. Steranko's on the other side of the elevator where it closes, and Bob Kane's on the inside of the elevator. And literally the only thing separating them is the elevator door. And Bob Kane decides he's going to humiliate Steranko because there's other people in the elevator, there's other professionals all around. And he says, "All right, you take care now, Jim baby." And he like pats him on the cheek like he's like a girl. Like he just taps him on the face, like he's cute, And Steranko said he couldn't sleep that night. He was so enraged because the elevator door closed right after that, so it was like a bitch move. So he gets away before Steranko could even react. Like he pat him on the face,
Oh my! And I fucking hate Bob Kane.
It kept him up at night because he was so like, how the fuck
that would fucking keep me up at night too,
dude. I never heard that part of the story. Holy shit!
Yeah,
I already hate Bob Kane, but I hate him even more.
There's a fucking video of Steranko telling the whole story.
We're gonna watch that. We're gonna watch that.
It's at San Diego Comic-Con, I think 2010 or some shit.
Yeah, that's one of the first things when you look up Jim Steranko. I didn't even finish typing Steranko. It's a slaps Bob Kane is the second thing.
So then he comes up to Bob Kane first thing in the morning. Bob Kane's getting his table set up, all this shit. There's still a lot of people there, even though they're like just opening the doors or whatever. So he comes, he literally like struts over the Bob Kane and he says, "Hey yo, what's happening, Bob baby?" And he fucking backhands the shit out of him in front of everyone. And he just stood there.
I've never heard of this.
He just stood there and didn't do jack shit. He was just sitting there, with his dick in his hand, just staring at Jim. And finally, Jim just left. And that was it.
No, remember when men were men, and they wouldn't just nowadays they'd be nowadays they'd be like, because there's no pride anymore. This guy would be, "Listen what he did to me," and like call security, and then Steranko would be the one taken to court.